Hey there, vintage car fans. Welcome to a deep dive designed just for you listeners of Spotify's Vintage Car Chronicles. Today, we're taking you on a ride through history with the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL.
The 300 SL.
Now, you already know this car is a legend, but we're going beyond just recognizing its beauty. We're going to uncover the stories behind its creation, innovations that shocked the world, and the legacy that continues to inspire today. Think of this deep dive as your backstage pass to becoming a true 300 SL expert. And to guide us through this journey, we have our resident expert, someone who can connect the dots and reveal not just the what of the 300 SL, but the why.
It's true. I do have a soft spot for the finer points, especially with a car as iconic as the 300 SL. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? There's always more to discover.
Okay, let's set the stage. The 300 SL didn't just magically appear, right? There's a story here, and it all starts with the thrill of the racetrack.
You're absolutely right. To understand the 300 SL, we need to rewind to the early 1950s, a time when Mercedes-Benz was making a name for itself, not in luxury, but in the raw power of motorsports, their weapon of choice. The W194 race car.
The W194, didn't it practically sweep the competition?
It did. Victories at the Mille Miglia, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, even the grueling Carrera Panamericana, a free 500-kilometer race across Mexico. This wasn't just a car, it was a statement. Mercedes was back on the world stage, and they meant business.
So we have this race-bred beast designed for speed and victory. How does it evolve into the 300 SL we know and love, the one that graced streets and captured imaginations?
That's where our story takes a fascinating turn. Enter Max Hoffman, a U.S. importer with a keen eye for the American market. Imagine pitching the idea of turning a hardcore race car into a road-legal machine to Mercedes-Benz, a company known for its luxury and refinement.
It does seem like a bit of a leap, doesn't it?
It does, but Hoffman had a vision. He saw the potential of bringing the thrill of the racetrack to the open road, and he managed to convince Mercedes-Benz to take that leap of faith.
And that gamble paid off in a big way. But Hoffman's vision needed some serious engineering muscle to become reality. The 300 SL wasn't going to be just any car. It was going to be groundbreaking.
Absolutely. The 300 SL was a showcase of engineering ingenuity. Take the spaceframe chassis, for example. This wasn't just about building a car. It was about building a lightweight yet incredibly strong structure, inspired by aircraft construction. The mastermind behind it was Rudolf Uhlenhaut, an engineer who understood that performance required pushing the boundaries of design.
That's fascinating. Using technology from aircraft design in a car. That's forward thinking for the time.
Yeah.
But I have to ask about those doors. They're not exactly what you call ordinary, are they?
You're right, those iconic Gullwing doors are impossible to ignore, and they weren't just a stylistic choice. Remember the spaceframe chassis we talked about? The high sills required for its strength made traditional doors impossible.
So the design was born out of necessity.
Exactly, they had to find a solution, and that solution turned into one of the most recognizable and, let's be honest, coolest design features in automotive history. It's a perfect example of how limitations can sometimes breed innovation.
But the innovations didn't stop there, did they? The 300 SL had another trick up its sleeve, direct fuel injection. That's technology we take for granted today, but in 1954, that's unheard of.
It was truly groundbreaking. Think about it. This was a time when most cars were still relying on carburetors. Mercedes-Benz, however, was determined to build the fastest production car in the world, and they knew fuel injection was the key.
So they were looking to their experience with aircraft engines.
Precisely. They had already been experimenting with fuel injection in their aircraft engines during the war, and then later in their research with diesel engines in the 1930s. They knew that precisely controlling the fuel-air mixture was crucial for maximizing power and efficiency.
So they took that knowledge and applied it to the 300 SL. It's amazing how innovations in one field can spark breakthroughs in another. It really showcases the company's dedication to pushing the boundaries of technology. But I have to admit, the image of a 1950s Mercedes mechanic tinkering with a fuel injection system seems so futuristic.
It does, doesn't it? And they were incredibly successful. The 300 SL not only achieved its goal of being the fastest production car of its time, but it also set a precedent for the widespread adoption of fuel injection in the decades that followed. It's amazing to think how a car from 1954 could have such a lasting impact on the automotive industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we're just scratching the surface of this incredible car. Stay with us as we delve deeper into the heart of the 300 SL. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore the intricacies of its design and engineering and uncover the secrets behind its enduring legacy.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL.
The 300 SL.
We've talked about its racing heritage and those jaw-dropping innovations. But now it's time to get under the skin of this automotive masterpiece.
Let's get into it.
What I find fascinating is how the engineering of the 300 SL didn't just dictate its performance, it shaped its very identity.
It's true. We talked about the spaceframe chassis being inspired by aircraft construction, but how did that translate into the 300 SL's iconic look?
Well, imagine those high sills, a necessary part of the spaceframe's strength. They gave the 300 SL its distinctive low-slung profile, almost like the car was sculpted around this rigid skeleton.
So it's like the chassis was the artist's canvas and the design flowed from there.
Exactly. And those high sills, remember, led to the Gullwing doors. They couldn't just slap on regular doors. Those wouldn't have cleared the sills. What started as a practical solution became a symbol of the car itself.
It's amazing how a constraint can lead to such an iconic design element.
It is. And the Gullwing doors weren't just functional. They added drama. Every time those doors swung open, it was an event, a spectacle.
I bet heads turned wherever this car went.
Oh, absolutely. But let's not forget what's under the hood. That 3.0-liter straight-six engine, the M198, was a beast in its own right.
That engine.
Direct fuel injection, dry sump lubrication. These weren't just fancy terms. They were pushing the boundaries of what was possible in a road car back then.
We talked about fuel injection being ahead of its time, but what about that dry sump lubrication? What's so special about it?
Well, imagine taking this car through high-speed corners.
Yep.
A regular lubrication system might struggle to keep the engine properly oiled under such forces. The dry sump system, however, ensured consistent oil distribution, no matter how hard you push the 300 SL.
So it was about ensuring peak performance in even the most demanding situations.
Precisely. Every detail from the chassis to the engine was designed with performance in mind. But performance isn't just about numbers, is it? It's about the experience.
You're right. What was it like to actually drive the 300 SL?
Well, imagine yourself behind the wheel. You settle into the low-slung cockpit, those Gullwing doors closing above you like a bird's wings. You fire up the engine, that Street 6 roaring to life with a sound that sends shivers down your spine. The car feels alive, eager to pounce, and when you hit the open road, it's pure exhilaration.
I can almost feel the wind rushing through my hair. It must have been a truly exhilarating experience.
It was. But the 300 SL wasn't just about raw power. Remember, this car had a dual personality. It could be a fierce competitor on the track, but it could also be a stylish grand tourer capable of crossing continents in comfort.
That brings us to the 300 SL Roadster, which debuted in 1957. What was the thinking behind introducing this variant?
Well, Mercedes realized that not everyone wanted or needed the raw edginess of the Gullwing. Some customers desired a more relaxed open-air driving experience without sacrificing the performance and style that the 300 SL was known for.
So the Roadster was a way to broaden the appeal of the 300 SL.
Exactly. And they didn't just chop off the roofs. They redesigned the chassis to accommodate conventional doors, but they didn't compromise on rigidity. They even managed to incorporate that low-pivot swing axle from the W194 racer, further enhancing the Roadster's handling.
It's amazing how they kept refining and evolving the 300 SL formula.
They did. The Roadster also addressed some of the Gullwing's, shall we say, quirks. They added roll-up windows, a more spacious interior, and even more luggage space. It became a more practical, comfortable grand tourer, but without losing that sporty edge.
So the Roadster was a bit more everyday 300 SLA car you could actually live with.
You could say that. It appealed to a wider audience, and it actually ended up being even more popular than the Gullwing.
It's interesting how the 300 SL evolved from a race-bred machine into something more refined and accessible.
It is. It shows how Mercedes-Benz was not only pushing the boundaries of technology and design, but also understanding the needs of their customers. But beyond the technical innovations and performance, there's another aspect of the 300 SL that deserves our attention: its design.
You're right. The 300 SL is considered a design icon even today. What was it about its design that made it so special?
Well, let's start with those Gullwing doors again. They're not just a functional necessity, they're a statement. They give the car a sense of drama of occasion.
They definitely make the 300 SL stand out from the crowd.
Absolutely. But there's more to it than just the doors. The overall shape of the car is a masterpiece of automotive design. Those long flowing lines, the low-slung profile, the long hood and short rear deck. It's a classic sports car silhouette that exudes both elegance and power.
It's a timeless design, one that still looks stunning today.
It is. And then there are the details. The prominent grille with the large Mercedes-Benz star. Those powerful hood bulges the side vents. They all contribute to the car's visual appeal and create a sense of motion even when it's standing still.
I love how those hood bulges add a touch of aggression to the design.
They do, and they weren't just for show. They were necessary to accommodate the tall inline-six engine, but they also became a signature design element of the 300 SL, and you can see their influence in later SL models.
It's like they established a design language that still resonates today.
Exactly. And that design language is about more than just aesthetics. It's about conveying a feeling and emotion. The 300 SL's design speaks of speed, of elegance, of exclusivity.
It's a car that makes a statement wherever it goes.
It does, but what's truly remarkable is how the 300 SL managed to capture the imagination of the public back in the day. It was a car that people dreamed of owning, a symbol of aspiration.
Why do you think that was? Was it simply the car's beauty? Or was there something more to it?
I think it was a combination of factors. First and foremost, it was the car's sheer beauty. It was unlike anything else on the road at the time, a car that seemed to come from the future.
It must have turned heads wherever it went.
It did. But it wasn't just about looks. It was also the car's performance. Remember, this was the fastest production car in the world at the time, and that kind of speed was intoxicating.
And it had that racing pedigree, that aura of exclusivity.
Exactly. The 300 SL was born on the racetrack, and that gave it a mystique that no other car could match. It was a car that represented the pinnacle of automotive achievement.
It's no wonder that the 300 SL became an instant icon.
It is, but its legacy goes beyond just its technical achievements or its stunning design. The 300 SL represents something more profound, something that transcends the world of automobiles.
What do you mean?
The 300 SL represents a time of optimism, a time when people were excited about the future and the possibilities that technology could bring. It was a symbol of progress, of human ingenuity.
It was a car that embodied the spirit of its era.
Exactly. And that spirit continues to resonate with people today. The 300 SL is a reminder that we can achieve great things when we dare to dream big and push the boundaries of what's possible.
That's a powerful message.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one that's embodied in every curve and every detail of the 300 SL.
Mm-hmm.
But we've only scratched the surface of this incredible car's story. Stay with us as we delve into the lasting legacy of the 300 SL and its impact on the automotive world. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL. We've traveled from its racing origins to its groundbreaking technology and timeless design. But as with any true icon, the story doesn't end with the car itself. The 300 SL left a legacy that shaped the automotive landscape for years to come.
It did indeed. And I think that's one of the most fascinating aspects of this car. Its influence extends far beyond its own production run. It set a benchmark for performance design and engineering that resonated throughout the industry.
We've seen how it influenced later SL models, but how did it impact the wider automotive world?
Well, think about the spaceframe chassis. Borrowing this technique from motorsport, the 300 SL showed that you could have both lightweight construction and exceptional rigidity. It became a blueprint for sports car construction, influencing countless manufacturers who followed.
So they were pioneers in a way, demonstrating the possibilities of lightweight yet strong construction.
Exactly. And then there's the direct fuel injection system. Remember back in the 50s, this was revolutionary.
Right.
The 300 SL proved its potential for increased power and efficiency, paving the way for its widespread adoption in later decades.
It's incredible how a car from 1954 could spark such a fundamental shift in automotive technology.
It speaks volumes about the vision and daring of the engineers behind the 300 SL. They weren't afraid to challenge conventions and experiment with new ideas, and the industry as a whole benefited from their boldness.
But what about its design legacy? We've talked about how iconic the 300 SL looks, but did it influence the aesthetic direction of other cars?
Without a doubt. That long hood, short rear deck, those signature Gullwing doors, they became quintessential elements of sports car design. It established a visual language that communicated speed, elegance, and a touch of exclusivity.
And that language is still spoken today, isn't it? I see echoes of the 300 SL in modern sports cars all the time.
Absolutely. Even those details we discussed, the prominent grille with the Mercedes star, the powerful hood, bulges, the side vents, they all found their way into the design vocabulary of the automotive world.
It's like they created a timeless aesthetic one that transcended the era in which it was born.
They did. But the 300 SL's legacy goes beyond its physical form, beyond the nuts and bolts of its engineering and design. It represents something more, something intangible.
What do you mean?
Think about the feeling it evokes, the emotions it stirs. The 300 SL represents an era of optimism, a time when people were excited about the future, about the possibilities technology could unlock.
It was a symbol of aspiration, a rolling embodiment of achievement and progress.
Precisely. And that's why it continues to captivate car enthusiasts today. It's not just a car. It's a legend, a dream woven from steel and innovation. It speaks to a time when cars were more than just machines. They were works of art, expressions of human ingenuity and creativity.
And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL. We've journeyed through its origins, explored its innovations, marveled at its design, and traced its lasting legacy. But most importantly, we've seen how a car can transcend its physical form to become something more. A symbol, an icon, a dream that continues to inspire.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure to delve into the world of the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL. And to all our listeners tuning in from Vintage Car Chronicles on Spotify, thank you for joining us for this special deep dive. Remember, a new episode of Vintage Car Chronicles drops every day, so be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more fascinating stories from the world of automobiles. Until next time, keep the passion for cars alive.